Hello, everybody, and welcome back to 50 Shades of Tay. I am your host, Taylor Gonzalez, and today I am joined by the director of the holiday horror slasher film, It's a Wonderful Knife. I have Tyler MacIntyre here with me today. How are you doing, Tyler?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate this. Your movie, It's a Wonderful Knife, which is coming out on Blu-ray April 9th, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it, was so much fun to see in the theaters. How was it getting to see this film in the theater for the first time?
It was good. Yeah, I mean, this is the first time that we were kind of getting like a bigger theatrical release. Technically, I mean, we opened about 1,000 screens across the U.S., which is like technically a wide release, which none of my previous films have gotten. They've been kind of smaller theatricals, like what they call limited theatricals. And so I was kind of looking forward to like knowing that like there was going to be a lot of people who were going to see it kind of in the way it was meant to be seen, like in terms of in a theater, because that's a bit of a debate among filmmakers. These days it's like, do you kind of do it for for the streaming or kind of like at home audience, or do you kind of? But I always am of the opinion that like if you make it kind of work for the theater, that's really then it'll carry down to the home experiences. And so I was it's always so awesome to see things with an audience, and nothing beats that reaction. And like filmmaking is kind of like an art form that's very much it's not similar to stuff like music where it's like there's kind of like a live performance element and you can kind of just do it in front of people. Like it's something that you work on a lot of time, by yourself, and then kind of in large groups with like we have to kind of work on set, and it's a very chaotic experience. But you have these like long stretches of kind of solitude where you're either editing the project or writing the project, and you can kind of lose perspective that you're kind of doing it for an audience. And so it's great to kind of see like what's working and what's not. And so for me, seeing It's a Wonderful Knife was great to kind of remind yourself that like, oh, like this line that like I've heard 1,000 times, like is actually, like it is funny and it is working the way it was intended, or whatever. And then kind of seeing how these reversals that I know are kind of coming. And for me, it was very rewarding to see kind of like how sort of like the main relationship between Bernie and Winnie kind of worked, and
Mhm.
and that's something we kind of worked hard on and kind of changed pretty organically as we were working it. So I was really rewarding to see how people responded to that.
Yeah, I was lucky to have a very reactionary audience with me when I saw it at AMC.
Oh,
It was a
cool.
lot of fun. And what was funny was diagonally in front of me, there were two kids who I think tricked their mom into seeing it, into thinking it was a Christmas film, because maybe like within the first 5 minutes, you could tell she was like jumping. And I think she didn't know going into it that it was going to be a horror film and she thought it was just a Christmas film. So that was really fun to see.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, well, I mean, I was gonna say like, I mean, I really like making like horror comedies or like kind of lighter horror films
Mhm.
because um I find that like it's fun to kind of go after people who are on the fence about horror.
Mhm.
Like 'cause there's horror fans that are like dedicated like myself, and like a lot of people that I make films for. But I like trying to make the type of horror film where you can bring somebody who's not a horror fan
Right.
and still have them kind of enjoy it. And so hearing stories like that, that's awesome.
Yeah. I gotta ask, what was your favorite thing about directing It's a Wonderful Knife?
Yeah, for I mean, it was a bit of an interesting thing. Like I was really happy that I was able to make a movie back in Vancouver. Like I'm from Canada originally. I'm from a province called Alberta, so it's like a little west of British Columbia, which is where Alberta is, kind of north of Montana for Americans. And I've been looking for the opportunity to. It was because my first couple of features have all been shot in the States where I live. And so I really have been looking for the right project to kind of bring back there. And when I was, going to make a Christmas movie, I was like, oh, we should try and figure out a way to shoot this in Canada. And thankfully, the producers were thinking that too. So we were able to kind of bring it back there. So that's part of what makes it kind of special to me is that, like I kind of got to go back there and kind of tell a story there, and kind of find a crew to work with there. And I wasn't able to bring a lot of the main collaborators from my previous films. Like and so I really just brought my director of photography, Nick Piatnik, who I worked with on VHS, but everyone else was kind of a new collaboration. And so that forming those relationships and kind of finding that stride, like that was a lot of fun, and that's what has the most meaning for me.
Oh, that's awesome. So what would you say was the most difficult thing about getting this film made? It doesn't necessarily have to be something crazy from, the budget or anything like that, but was it like the weather or was there anything that made this film in particular difficult to make?
Yeah, I mean, like it was. I think I think it was ambitious in that there's a lot of locations, and particularly the since the movie takes place in this alternate reality. A lot of the film is actually takes place at night, like 80% of it. And a lot of it's outside. So we had to shoot, at night, like, and night shoots really kind of drain people, like, especially when you're working kind of long hours at night. And so it was quite difficult to, get people through that because, you get kind of loopy in the middle of the night and things get weird.
Mhm.
And it's, I think that was probably the most challenging thing because like people were, some people got really worn down by it,
Mhm.
like our, we had our first AD like in the middle of the movie kind of quit like
Oh,
during production. I mean, and one of the main reasons was just the night shoots were getting to him, and
yeah.
it's like that's it's not great. So I think that was one of the most challenging things. But in terms of like while we're actually shooting it, but yeah, I mean, I think the biggest challenge for me, like creatively, was just trying to do things on this schedule. It was only
Mhm.
18 days, and the
Oh,
movie kind of
wow.
wants to be bigger, like,
Right.
and it gets kind of mentioned amongst other, I guess people are starting to call them what's the term like grouping them together with like Happy Death Day and like Freaky and like these
Mhm.
sorts of films and uh or like Totally Killer, like
Right.
and like our movie kind of has like that sort of riff in a slasher
Mhm.
kind of sense, but like we're like a quarter of the budget of those movies. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
it's like it's so we have but it's kind of not written like it knows that. So we have to kind
Mhm.
of like figure out ways to take the time we have to make it as well as we can. And I think that was the biggest ongoing challenge. It's just kind of like having a story that wants to be bigger than
Mhm.
you have the resources for. But people were all pretty game to kind of bring their best, and I think we were able to get a lot on the screen.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, speaking of being bigger, you have Joel McHale and you have Justin Long in this film. Justin Long has been doing some very interesting projects lately between this, Barbarian, which was one of my favorite movies when it came out. How did Joel McHale and Justin Long get involved in your film?
Yeah, so Joel came on first. He was actually the first person on. He was on before anybody else, actor-wise. And he was kind of in talks even before I was on. So like he had a previous director had sort of like I was, they had sort of started developing the project with a different director, and Joel had kind of been sort of heard about the project when that was happening. And then when I came on, we talked, and he was like, "No, I'm interested in doing this." So then he came on pretty early and didn't seem to care who else was involved. He just kind of liked it. And so that was very helpful because he, Joel has a lot of meaning, especially in like the domestic market, and like he's a great performer. And I really wanted to work with him. And so we were like, okay, well, we know he's David, and then let's kind of, and that part is also kind of like, it's important, but it's not, like we still get to find our lead, we still get to find Mr. Waters, and we still get to kind of figure a lot of the other points in the cast. And so Joel came on. It was very smooth. We made a lot of offers trying to find the right Mr. Waters, and we kind of went back and forth on like who would work for the distributor and who would work for sales and who would work creatively, and we went through like a lot of uh, different possibilities and we just didn't have a lot of luck because like with our dates kind of shifting, like we had to go around Joel's schedule and then also, which was not that hectic, like he was pretty open, but it was or flexible with us anyway. And but also there was a lot of things that were shooting because of the strike coming up. So like we shot this in March, April last year, and then the strike happened in May, so at the end of May. So we had got in kind of under the wire before the big strike,
Mhm.
and so yeah, essentially because like Justin was kind of on my radar pretty early, and initially like the studio was a bit like, oh, we don't know about Justin, but then once Barbarian came out, people were like, oh, Justin Long's having a moment, and I was
Yeah.
like, let's put him on to the top of the list. And he was also like in Vancouver shooting Goosebumps at the time, so he was a
Oh,
bit like, yeah,
perfect.
I can do this like right at the end of our schedule if
Mhm.
you guys shoot in like March. And so then we just backed our way into that, and he was and this was great to have him.
Oh, that's awesome. That's perfect timing.
Yeah, yeah,
Goosebumps
yeah,
was
it
also
worked
really
out.
fun.
Yeah,
So
totally.
in your film, It's a Wonderful Knife, there's a lot of great LGBTQ plus representation, and you just got nominated for a GLAAD award. Congratulations on that, by the way.
Oh,
I'm
thank
very
you.
excited for that. How have you found that your film has been received by the LGBTQ community, and what does it represent to you that you're getting recognition from GLAAD for this film?
It means a lot. Like I'm, like I always kind of strive to have a fair amount of representation in my movies. Like overall, like I think if you look at pretty much anything I've done, there's like like queer themes and like a lot of feminist themes, and like I try and cast uh, uh, people of color and try and like uh, be definitely kind of inclusionary, but I think it's just kind of been that way because a lot of the people that I've worked with have been part of those communities at various times, and like even when I was younger and kind of getting into it. And so I think that's just kind of a natural sort of progression as we're as like you know uh, people from different backgrounds are starting to get into filmmaking and on a bigger level. I think we're going to see more and more. And so like, but it's awesome when, you can come into a project and like, Michael had such a specific kind of script in mind. And like, he's and so there's a lot of, like this, since this is kind of his, I think second feature or third feature that's got produced. Like he had a little bit more like leeway. And so he'd already kind of put in, some, like for instance, like Jimmy and Aunt Gail were already queer characters, and then Aunt Gail was married to a character named Karen, and so like those characters were kind of in the script, and then Winnie and Bernie were actually more of a platonic kind of friendship. They kind of had some sort of like queer subtext to it, but like was really more played straight, like for lack of a better term, and but then once we kind of once we got Jane Witt cast and got her or got them in the same room as Jess McLeod,
Mm.
then the chemistry that they had together kind of became pretty apparent, and they both kind of approached me after it was kind of kicking around in my head a little bit, but like, well, what if this is more of a romance? And so we did a rehearsal, and it became pretty apparent that that was kind of the way it was leaning, and we just kind of like leaned into it even more.
Mm.
And so and I'm glad that like it's not like the story isn't really about someone discovering their queerness. Like it's
Mm.
like there's a certain like that's it's just there's characters have to be gay, and so like
Yeah.
I think that's something that a lot of the crew and cast were really responding to, and it was something that came very organically out of the subject matter and the situation and the chemistry. So um I was quite happy with that because it also I think gave them a lot of like ownership over the project because they could
Mm.
see that like they brought something specific, and then we like, and that's what I try and do when I'm directing is just like you hire the right people and then you listen to your collaborators, and that's kind of like just what happened. So I'm glad that people are responding to it and kind of
Yeah.
seeing some truth in it.
Mm. Congratulations again on the nomination. It's very well deserved, and that's so awesome to be recognized like that. Very
Yeah,
cool.
hey, yeah, we're pumped. So that's coming up next month, I think. So.
Yeah, right around the corner. That's crazy. So since this is a horror film, I gotta ask, did anything creepy, spooky, unusual happen on set, especially since you were doing these night shoots?
Ooh, I mean, things are a little creepy. Like we, I would say the creepiest night for me was the when we were doing there's like a party scene where we have this kind of lovers lane sort of thing, and then you kind of we sort of lit up this area kind of with all these Christmas lights down this big long boardwalk or kind of deck sort of thing leads out to the water, and we weren't really using the lake because it was night, but it was kind of like chilly out there, and like the woods are kind of, and so you're like you have your well lit area, but then everything kind of falls off like Friday the 13th style into the woods, and so I was like, this is creepy out there, and so you when you're trying to like walk back to the base camp or whatever, you're just like, this is a little spooky, so yeah.
That was a really fun scene. Did you have a favorite scene to direct?
Oh, yeah, I mean, like my favorite on the page, and also probably my favorite direct, even though we were a little under the gun, was the one where Winnie first discovers that she's in this alternate world. She sort of comes back and then ends up getting chased by the angel, and then is sitting kind of a bit like traumatized on the back of an ambulance. And then this character named Buck, who's like the little brother of the bad guy, who's now the sheriff of the town, comes up to her and starts talking, and he doesn't know who she is, and she doesn't know why he doesn't know, and it was just I felt like things were really vibing, and that was like 3 or 4 days on the shoot, and I was like, oh, we're like finding our feet like
Mm.
comedically, and yeah, so that was the most fun. Like it was one of the audition scenes for Winnie and stuff, so it was good to see that. And yeah, that was probably my favorite one because we Even though we did not have enough time to shoot it, I felt like it was we were having the most fun in terms of like kind of vibing, and I was like, oh, so that's the tone of the movie, and then we could sort of push towards that.
Oh, that's fun. So I recently had Eric and Karsten Bloomquist, who are the filmmakers behind Founders Day, on the channel.
Yeah, great.
And right now, just streaming, I think starting yesterday on Netflix, is Thanksgiving by Eli Roth. There's
Yeah.
a few different horror holiday themed slashers out there. If you could cross over your film with any of these or anything else, is there something you would want to specifically cross it over with?
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, I think it does kind of fit in the same world as like Freaky with which Michael also wrote,
Yeah.
and I love the characters from that movie. I think that would be kind of a fun crossover.
Ah, that one would be really fun.
Yeah, get
So,
Vince Vaughn and Justin Long together. That'd be great.
oh yeah, that would be so much fun.
Yeah.
If you could give me a little bit of a preview of what fans can expect on April 9th when the Blu-ray comes out, are there any bloopers, deleted scenes? What can people look forward to?
Yeah, unfortunately, no bloopers. We've got a little bit of a lot of we've got some good BTS stuff. We have a really solid behind the scenes doc about making of the movie that was directed by Alice 13 and is who was with us on set the whole time and really got like a lot of like really kind of embedded themselves in the production and really was kind of a part of it and got to know a lot of the actors really well and a lot of the crew really well. And it was a very fun kind of collaboration. And they, just shot a lot of really, I think, very candid footage and then put it together in a way that really, I think, tells the story of the making of the movie in a way that is unusually quality for a movie of our scale. And so I was really happy that they were able to do that. And then we also have two audio commentary tracks. That one I did with Nick Piotnik, who's the cinematographer, and then one that Michael Kennedy and I did. And then we have a little storyboard featurette that's like shows the one of the kills kind of like side by side with like all the storyboards. And I think we have some like various trailers and social media spots and things like that.
Oh, that's going to be really fun. I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to that documentary. That sounds awesome to me.
Yeah, I think it's the crown jewel of the special features for sure.
Oh,
And
that's so
they, yeah,
cool.
they did a really good job with it.
Is there any talk so far of a sequel, a potential sequel to this film?
There's some rumblings,
Oh,
but yeah, I know that Michael and I are both working on other things at the moment, but yeah, we would. I think I'd love to go back to Angel Falls.
yeah, that would be so much fun. So, Tyler, where can people follow you to keep up with your career and your other upcoming projects?
Yeah, I'm at Ty MacIntyre on Instagram and at TMacFilm on Twitter. If anyone is so inclined to follow me, I mean, Instagram's probably a little bit. I may be starting to post there a little more, even though I was kind of late to the party. I just joined like 2 months ago, so but maybe I'll come up with more stuff to post.
Well, thank you so much, Tyler, for joining me. I really appreciate this opportunity. I loved your film, and I cannot wait to get my hands on the Blu-ray just like in a month. It's right around the corner, so that's
Right?
very
Yeah.
exciting. April 9th.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with me. It's always good to walk down memory road a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it, and I hope you have a good rest of your weekend.
You too.
All right, bye.
Bye.